and I would, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to thank Dr. Anil Patil for extending wholehearted support for this event since it's in Karnataka. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chirag. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Parag and the ROC for having provided me this great honor to give a lecture on role of osteotomy in osteoarthritis. Well, what exactly is the role of osteotomy? I mean, we all know osteoarthritis over time is changing, or the way we have been diagnosing now is that even younger and younger people have been diagnosed with osteoarthritis. And then we know the limitations of orthoplasty, that it can be done for people, beyond. The aging people are increasing, and now we have more people, who live longer compared to earlier. So there was something which needs to be done, and then we did understand that there was some problem with the alignment. So osteotomy is basically concerned with the alignment. And well, will this alignment correction would help in osteoarthritis? If so, in whom, how and why, and which type of procedure would really help is what we are going to see in next few minutes. Basically, it's important. Its importance is in unicompartmental disease. Most of the time it's on the medial side. And of course, when it is always associated with malalignment and not without malalignment. And knee replacement limits activities, as we know, would be another thing which the osteotomy would give an upper hand over, trying to push doing the replacement at a later age than doing early. And then osteotomy is supposed to preserve the native joint. So what does the literature talk about HTO, that is high tibial osteotomy? Well, Amendola et al. Have said that a well-established procedure, it's a well-established procedure for the medial knee OA with a favorable long-term results in a properly selected patients. And same as another systemic review in 2006, which was published, said that the medial opening wedge high tibial osteotomy can delay the total knee replacement by more than 10 years, and that's how, and the survival rate was more than 85% at 10 years of age. And another study at 2014 which said that, the Cochrane review study which said that the osteotomy for the knee, especially the valgus HTO, reduces the pain and improves functions in medial compartment osteoarthritis compared to the preoperative status. Well, how does this concept of, well, we have seen the beautiful lectures, the three people who spoke earlier, that is Anshu and then Dr. Akshay and then Dr. Mukul. They showed how this technique can be done and how best it can be done and what implants can be used. So what does it do actually? It basically tries to give a biological realignment. It is a biological realignment procedure. It's not that it's just a mechanical, deviation of the axis, because this procedure has shown that it reduces the degeneration, and in some cases, really even there is some amount of regeneration, which some of the papers have shown. Well, it transfers the load to the healthy compartment, that is where the medial compartment is affected. If you normally see 70% of the load passes through your medial compartment. And then when you see, let us say there is a lateral meniscus tear and you have done a lateral meniscectomy. What happens here is you see very early degenerative changes on the lateral side of the compartment. Why? Because the load shift on the lateral side, and that causes early degenerative changes on the lateral compartment. So shifting the load to one of the side, that is how it unloads on one side and then tries to increase the load on the other side. And this shifting of the load helps in reducing the pain and also helps in slowing of the progression. So how this study has shown that it can delay the knee replacement by 8 to 15 years. The recent studies, what do they say? The 2024 study by Constantine et al. Says that the long-term success surgical option in case of medial compartment OA can delay the need for knee replacement in young patients. And then another study in 2024 suggests that there can be a good functional results in the midterm follow-up. And there is another study which showed that even in case of valgus knee with osteoarthritis, they could try to mimic the same results what was seen in the varus knee. And there was another study which supported the most recent study by APC et al., which said that a high quality recent review placing H2 analog in comparison with unicondylar orthoplasty, showing that the comparable results when it is done in place of unicondylar replacement. Now, who is the ideal patient for this? Now, somebody who is less than 60 years of age, who's got a unicompartmental affection, that is either has a varus or a valgus malalignment. The important thing is the range of movement has to be more than 90 degrees, and then the flexion contracture has to be less than 10 degrees, and then the ligaments have to be stable. Otherwise, you cannot do this procedure. Of course, for the ligament, you can try and add the ligament reconstruction, especially when you have an ACL tear, you can even do an ACL reconstruction with the osteotomy. The functional outcome, again, the review studies show that the functional outcomes have been very great. That is, functionally the patients have been very happy getting back to their normal activities as high as in 80% of the cases. And then that's all. There was this study by Bettnizer et al., which showed in 2021 that there is cartilage preservation and as well as regeneration after high tibial osteotomy. So what are the types of osteotomy? Actually, around the knee, if you see, we have the high tibial osteotomy, we have the distal femoral osteotomy, the double level osteotomy, and then the fibular osteotomy. Now, among these, we all know that we are most interested in the high tibial osteotomy. Well, and then in that, we have basically the lateral closed wedge and the medial opening, and that is where we would like to stress upon. The high tibial osteotomy, yes, the most commonly performed osteotomy, it is the medial opening wedge which is preferred among the two. What exactly we are trying to do with this osteotomy is trying to attain the Fujisawa point to 62 to 65%. Why? Because if there is more load on the medial side, then you're trying to shift it more laterally so that there is a lesser this thing. They have shown that, I will tell you, depending upon the amount of cartilage, what exactly happens when it is shifted laterally. And the most important thing which is compared to orthoplasty, that is a uni, is that it allows you squatting and active lifestyle after doing an osteotomy over uni. Well, these are the things, various plan we need to do. I think these have been explained by the previous speakers, but then just in general, we need to know the anatomical axis, the mechanical axis, that is the mechanical axis deviation that will help you in the amount of correction we need to do. And then, of course, the point of correction, because this is very important. What we are today talking about is about the metaphyseal correction, which is the medial opening or the lateral closing. That's the anatomical axis, that is the axis along the diaphysis of the long bones. The mechanical axis is the point of the center of the joint of hip, knee, as well as the ankle, where it passes normally in a normal knee, it passes at the center. And then in case of varus knee, it is on medial side, and in case of valgus, it is on the lateral side. So when do we call that it is abnormal? That is when this MAD, that is mechanical axis deviation, is more than 15 degrees, we call it as a varus malalignment. And when it is, the valgus is when it is in the midpoint, beyond the midpoint, which is when it is laterally, we call it as valgus. Now, these are the various angles which were explained by the previous thing. I would not like to go in details with this. That is, all these you need to. Now, what exactly are we trying to see? Once we know that whether it is a varus or a valgus deformity, we would like to find out where the problem is. Where is the deformity? Is it in the femur or the tibia? Because that is where it will help you to do the correction, and that is how you can decide where the correction has to be done. Very important that, sagittal plane deformity is also addressed. Because in normally, the axis goes actually anterior to the knee joint in an extended knee, whereas in a slight 5 to 10 degrees of flexion, it goes at the center. The sagittal plane correction has to be because that addresses the recurvatum and the procurvatum deformity of the knee joint. The most important thing which each one of us have to do when we plan for an osteotomy is the routine plain X-ray what you take in your OPD. Now this is important. You need to have your long X-ray cassette, that is your 55 millimeter inch cassette which is required, and the X-ray tube and the plate, that is weight bearing X-ray what is taken should be of 10 feet away. The limb length has to be balanced. If there is a shortening, you need to give a raise on the side, whichever side the shortening is there. Now this is important because the X-ray is the foremost thing which helps you in calculating whether the patient has got varus or valgus deformity. Of course, the MRI also helps in knowing whether there is any associated ligament instability, which helps you in planning whether ligament reconstruction can be done, or you need to give away the procedure of doing the osteotomy. CT scan basically helps you in the other, that is torsional malalignment. So clinical evaluation is most important for the success of this procedure. That is, you need to know whether there was any previous history of trauma, sports injury, smoking and BMI. These are very, very important because smoking and BMI will give you, a poor results, and also you need to, rule out that there were no any associated arthritis, that is something like, inflammatory arthritis in the knee, because your result is not going to be good because it's going to cause generalized disease of the joint. And of course, the range of movement, as I told you, a minimum of 90 degrees of flexion and a FFD of less than 10 degrees, which is very important to decide whether the patient is fit to do this procedure. So same, as I told you, stage of osteoarthritis, early stage of osteoarthritis, patellofemoral joint affection. Again, early patellofemoral is okay, but not in the late patellofemoral affection, and ligament instability are important. And I already explained this. Then planning of correction. Well, you need to plan for the correction. As I said, now when I came back to the varus deformity, where do you keep this point of correction? Normally, that is where we plan to do is around 62 to 65%, that is on the lateral side, from medial to lateral when you go. But if the cartilage thickness is between, is 10 to 15%, that is, sorry, two-third out of one-third is there, then it is going to be 10 to 15% shift. But if it is going to be one-third and below, then you are going to be around 20 to 25% from the center is the point where you are trying to achieve the point of correction. So they have shown what happens in the valgus deformity. In the valgus deformity, you are trying to shift this point medially between 0 to 20%. This was shown by Coecle et al. In their study. So we know load sharing, what happens when, this is what I was trying to tell again, is about load sharing. If the point is in the center, we have 70% of the load falling on the medial aspect of the knee joint. It is only when you shift to a valgus of 4 degrees or between 4 to 6 degrees is where you are trying to get about 40 to 50% reduction in the stresses falling on the medial side of the joint. So these are the calculations and planning what you can do. And lateral closing wedge osteotomy was one of the classical procedures which was done earlier, where we used to remove a block of bone. The procedure is to be a lateral approach. You have to do a fibular osteotomy, or you have to release the tibiofibular joint. This was mandatory. During this procedure, you had a very high chance of causing, common peroneal nerve injury. And here the wedge of bone is removed. As a wedge of bone is removed, what happens is there is a chance of shortening of the limb. And though the target is always to achieve the same, that is, your Fujisawa point has to be between 62 to 65%. So advantages of this lateral closing wedges, we have excellent union rates. Why? Because it's a closed wedge osteotomy and stable construct. But then you had, this is a classic procedure, and no bone graft required. But the disadvantages, fibular osteotomy morbidity, the risk of common peroneal nerve injury, limb shortening, patella baja, and loss of bone stock. Medial opening wedge, the advantages are that it is a joint preserving realigning procedure. You have an advantage here that you do it a controlled opening wedge. So you have a control over getting the best correction compared to the lateral closing wedge, and now it is considered as a gold standard. The indications are basically the medial compartment OA with varus malalignment, age less than 60 years, and where range of movement is a minimum 90 degrees, flexion contraction less than 10 degrees, and stable ligament. These are very important. And then the primer procedures, you have a medial approach, a biplanar osteotomy which is done, and then the tibial fixation here is done with a locking medial plate, and the bone graft or substitute is only required when you have a correction of more than 10 to 12 mm. There's a small video, I think I'll skip that. The advantages are it's highly accurate, no fibular osteotomy required, no limb shortening is there, you have better control over the posterior tibial slope, and conversion to TKE at a later state is ideal compared to the lateral closing wedge. If you do the comparison now, trying to understand the lateral and the medial side, what happens on the lateral side is fibular osteotomy is required, limb shortening is there, the risk of common peroneal nerve. On the medial side, you have that the high precise of correction, excellent ability to fine tune, and then you have minimal change in the patellar height, and now it is considered as a gold standard. When you do the comparison between both, so medial side is mild to moderate varus. So where do you use a medial side? Medial side is basically used for mild to moderate varus, need precise correction, young and active patient, and where featured TKA is likely. Whereas on lateral side, you would keep it only for patient who is more elderly, more osteoporotic would be the main indication. So results are great. We have around 80 to 90% pain reduction in over a review of 10 to 15 years. You start with partial weight bearing at 4 to 6 weeks, full weight bearing at 8 to 12 weeks. Osteotomy versus partial knee replacement. Well, I would like to just read the last sentence, that is, young and active, mal-aligned knee, you would like to do an osteotomy, whereas an older, low demand, and a well-aligned knee, you would like to do a UKE. So the take-home message is, correct patient selection is most important, precise alignment is the key to the success, excellent joint preservation option because we have opening and closing wedge, and we know that opening is preferred over the close. Why? Because it is safe and easy, as it can also be used for the future orthoplasty. Thank you.